and today we will be talking to you about Lake Titicaca.
Yes, we had a really nice time there. We went to two places that were on Lake Titicaca. The first one was called Copacabana, which was a beautiful little town nestled right on Lake Titicaca, and the second one was Puno.
So we got there by taxi, right?
Yes, so
taxi.
If you saw in our last video, we actually had to hire a taxi to get to Copacabana just because we still weren't feeling 100% and we didn't want to take a bus and have the risk of not having bathrooms and so on and so forth. So we took a taxi. And then what was unique about our taxi ride? Do you remember?
We crossed Lake Titicaca with these like logs.
I don't think we were crossing Lake Titicaca. I think we're just crossing a river because I think the road stops and then it continues on the other side of the river.
Yeah, and the way it crosses is with these like barges, right? So there's big barges and buses can go on, taxis can go on, everything can go on to these big barges to cross over. Sorry, what's that?
We crossed with a bus and us, so there was lots of people.
Yeah, and what they do, just if you are traveling by bus, you'll want to make sure that if you're going by bus, everybody gets off the bus and then crosses over on a different barge. So some people have said, it's maybe not a good idea to leave all your personal belongings and so on and so forth, because they didn't realize they got off the bus and then didn't even realize that they were going on a separate barge to the other side. So just FYI in case you're taking the bus.
So what's so funny is that we met a couple. They were going to the bathroom and then the bus started going without them on these like things across the river, and they're like, "Oh wait!" And then they had to catch up with the bus.
Yeah, they
had to go across somehow and then
meet up with the bus a different way. That was a funny story. We arrived in Copacabana and we fell in love with it. I love little villages, and this was like a tiny little village on the lake, and it had literally like restaurant after restaurant after restaurant, and these little tiny little kind of like mom and pop shop restaurants all along the water. A really nice atmosphere. We stayed in the most beautiful spot, right girls?
Yes.
Do you remember it?
So where we stayed, it was super nice. We had a hot tub with the view. It was really nice.
Yeah.
And then it was really nice. And then we had like 2 rooms and then like a little living room.
It was just really nice and comfortable and just super high end, so it felt good to stay and overlook the lake like that.
Yeah.
It was a really neat atmosphere. So we found a beautiful restaurant right along the water that night to go have dinner, and that was delicious. I remember Tyler going a little bit overboard. We were all kind of like just easing back into eating, full foods and everything, and he had this big huge fish dinner and he was so like loving it. And it was a really bad idea. The next day he really suffered and got sick, so that wasn't so good. But anyhow, it is what it is.
So we woke up the next morning and there was a big parade going on.
It was all the streets of this little village were all decked out. People were playing drums, people were dancing, people were wearing costumes, they were doing their local dance, and it was the festival of the Virgin, I'm not sure what, but it's practiced all around Lake Titicaca, so in Peru and in Bolivia, and they do this type of celebration, and so we just hit the right day. So it was a really fun atmosphere because we were really entertained, weren't we, girls?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun.
What's really cool about what we did, we went, so there's this Sea-Doo, and then there was us, and then there was another family, and then we went in these like tubes that you like roll around in, and then the Sea-Doo took us out, and then we were just like playing around on the water, and then we came back, but that was really fun.
Yeah, we had a good time in there, didn't we?
Yeah, kept rolling.
And we were wearing our clothes, and we didn't even get wet, so that was a good thing too, because we weren't sure, like, are we gonna get soaking wet in these things, and how fast is the Sea-Doo gonna pull us out, but it wasn't so bad. So that was a fun experience. From there, we ended up, if I'm not mistaken, taking a bus all the way to Puno. And that was a really nice drive. I can't remember how long it was, but it wasn't so far away. And in Puno, that's a little bit of a bigger city. There we were able to go visit the floating villages. So if you're ever in that area, definitely don't miss out on that, because that is such a cool experience. So what we did is, and two things to know, you can take a tour, and a lot of people are trying to sell you the tour to go on and see the floating villages. But if you just walk down to the kind of shoreline, you can just buy your own. You don't have to go through a tour guide or anything like that. You just buy your pass and off you go. So we did that, and so you take the boat out quite a while, and it's a beautiful view of the whole scenery of the city line and a little bit of the rolling hills and such behind. And then you get to the floating villages, and it's just unbelievable because they literally live there. I don't think there's any electricity, was there? There's not just like one little island, there's like several islands of these little floating islands. And do you remember what they said they were made up of, Julia?
I'm not fully sure, but I think probably grass or straw, mud.
Yeah, and so they do move around a little bit. And what was interesting is when you go on this tour, they show you how they live. They show you kind of like their little homes. They even did a little dance for us. And then we went on one of their boats, which is like this big, huge, looks like a basket, floating basket, right? And then we went to another little island, and there, if I'm not mistaken, I think there was even a spot where you can like buy something to drink and such, but they were selling little arts and crafts and some of the things.
We bought some souvenirs there.
When we got back.
Yeah, when we got back there was many souvenirs. It was a great spot to buy.
Basically, they sell these like flutes that that has a string attached, and if it falls, it like breaks because it's made out of.
Yes, you guys bought some, didn't you?
Yeah.
And they broke.
Yeah.
I remember that. Here's some interesting things. Lake Titicaca is the highest lake in the world. It's at 4,000 meters, and it's also it's never froze before. And some people suffer still from altitude sickness. I think we were like over that at that point. We were kind of used to it. It wasn't bothering us so much anymore. And it is one of the largest lakes, if not the largest lake in all of South America. And another thing to do, if I back up a little bit, when you are in Copacabana, there's the Isla del Sol, which is the island of the sun. It's like a trip that people go out and do a day trip. Some people stay the night. Really nice walking trails and such. We didn't do that. We just kind of stayed local and enjoyed the little village of Copacabana. So the little floating islands are actually made up of reed and probably mud, right? Like you were saying, Julia.
Souvenirs wise, there are really nice like unique purses from that area.
So it's like the typical purses from the area, right? With a little bit of material, and they're made out of leather. So that was nice. One thing we like to do when we get into like a little bit of a bigger city or whatever is sometimes we go watch a movie. And so what did we do in Puno that we watched?
We watched Alvin and the Chipmunks.
In which language?
Spanish.
In Spanish. Did you understand?
I don't think so.
Well, it's a cartoon, so maybe, right? Maybe
Yeah,
a little bit.
maybe, yeah.
It was fun. And then we had some pizza, I think, at the food court, or I'm sure we had pizza, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure we did. So-
Wasn't the Pizza Hut there, and that's what we loved about it?
or Papa John's.
Papa John's, yeah.
No, but Papa John's was in Ecuador.
That was in Ecuador. They have Papa John's a lot. So we had a lovely time visiting Lake Titicaca, the highest lake in the world. It was a really cool experience for all of us, and just to meet some of the locals, see kind of their ways, see that the world is different. We don't all live the same. We don't all have the same kind of homes. We don't do the same daily activities, and that's sometimes an eye-opener for all of us, I would say, when we're traveling, we do realize that life is just different. So interesting. And our next video is going to be about our trip to Cusco, which is very close to Machu Picchu and Machu Picchu. So make sure you guys subscribe and hit the little notification bell so you'll be notified of the next video. And we hope you enjoy the pictures and some of the videos that we have from our past trips. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.